Hello, my name is Sami Al-Abdrabbuh. Hello, my name is Sami Al-Abdrabbuh. I'm Engineering 112 instructor, and I would like to walk you through the three basic constructs of a programming language. Basically, what we want to learn today, if you have any programming language, it should allow you to apply or utilize three important features or elements, and those elements could be included in your program. One of them could be included in your program or code, or maybe all of them, depending on the complexity of your code. So let's get started. What I want to show you here is a place where you can draw your flow chart, which is the thinking or what you're trying to use to show what you're trying to do on your program. Before we start doing that in a platform like MATLAB or anything like that, we could do it using a platform like Lucidchart or a pencil and paper to represent our ideas and thinking. So let me show you here what we have. Basically what we have here is to start a program, you sometimes you want to ask for an input. Let's say you ask for a numeric value, so a value. And the idea of sequence is that you do one step after the other. So for parallelograms, we will mention anything that is an input or an output. And for a process, it's anything that you use inside MATLAB or inside your programming language. As an example, x equal the numeric value. So whatever you input, save it to a variable called x. Now let's say you want to do some math with that. That's another process. So some math you can do with this, and we will use in this annotation. If you want to change x to be equal, to multiply it by 2, so we would say 2 equal x equal 2 multiplied by x. Now, this might not sound right to the mathematical algebraic equation, but what we want to say here is the inputted value, assign it to x, and now this new value x, which is whatever the user inputted, multiply it by 2 and save it into x, upgrade it into x. Let's say there's another thing that you're doing, maybe another variable, y. Y will be equal to x plus 5. So that's another step that you want to do. Now, just like when you cook a meal, some veggies like the mushrooms take more time and the rice takes longer time than all the veggies. So there have to be some sequence in how you add your ingredients and what steps you do. The same thing here. If I want to create a program that asks for one value and then prints two values, saves into the program two values, x and y, and then prints them, and here let's just say print to the screen values x and y. Now there have to be some order into what we do here. So you can see you input a value and then you do some math, some equations, and then first actually you input a value, you assign that value into a variable, you do some processes like mathematical equations, and then you print them. And then you terminate or you end your program. Now, these are steps, okay? And that's all what we want to learn about the first element or construct of programming language. You have to do them in a specific sequence of steps, okay? Now, sequence is our first construct. The second construct is selection. Selection is basically a decision you make depending on the value. So let me put this now on the side and say, rather than have this simplistic example, let's have an example where the user enters a value, and then after they enter the value, we ask a decision. Is this value larger than a specific number? Maybe is x less than or equal than 5? Okay, or larger or equal than 5. In this example now, this is a question mark. So I'll add a question mark here, even though usually you don't get the question mark there. This is a question mark. that can be answered by two situations. One of them is yes, and the other one is no. If the value is not larger than x, we will go to the no. If the value is larger or equal to x, we'll go to yes. So yes, here you can do other processes. So you can say x multiplied by 2, so make it plus 2x, and here maybe you can say x equal x plus 5. So you can have two different situations here, and then you can also print them and display them. So display x, display y. Now in this situation you can see we're doing two different branches and we're selecting one or the other. So here in this situation, selection, we can say print x, and here print x. Now here's a pro tip. When you see the same steps are the same in two branches, maybe this is the time where you want to say probably we need to merge them. The selection was only based on a specific step, which was the computation or the processing of x. It changes depending on the answer of the question. The printing is common. So you want to think what are the two possible scenarios, and then what are the follow-up scenarios, and then you end. In this situation, in this code, or this algorithm now, you can see we have sequence still, but also you have selection. Okay? Now to our third thing that we can do. The third thing we can do, and I'm going actually to utilize this code for our third attempt, or for our third problem that will be used for the third construct of programming language. A third construct of a programming language is loops, or iteration, continuing to do things again and again and again for a certain time or a certain period. This is where you see a feedback goes up into a specific step. So let's say in this situation we have a decision, okay, but also we can have something that keeps asking the user for the value x. So after you print value x, let's say here, for this hypothetical example, we ask another question. X is odd. Okay, so let's say, well, in this situation, we could have an odd number, probably not in this case, but we could have an odd number here. But we could have an odd number as x, and we keep repeating. If the odd number is yes, we want to terminate, but if we don't have a variable x as odd, we keep asking the user again and again to input a value. So in this situation now, we're repeating the steps so many times, or maybe one time, depending, as many times until we get an odd value. Now let me give you a warning here, and that's very important warning regarding sequence and loops. In this situation, we're asking x is odd. Which x are we talking about? This one or this one? We're talking about the last x. So maybe you want to consider to ask yourself when you ask your question here, is it after, and here you change the x to a y? That's another discussion. You need to think about what's the purpose of the program and why you want to terminate at an odd number. Is it after processing your values? So all of these questions we will navigate depending on our problem or program. But right now, just to understand the basics, we have sequence, we have selection, and also we have iteration. Selection is represented by most, if not all, programming languages with if-then statement. If question or condition is satisfied, then do something else, do something else. And you have iteration, which is usually loops, while loops or for loops, and we will navigate those later on. So any programming language should satisfy or have the following constructs or capabilities: the ability to do steps in a specific sequence, the ability to do selection, so you branch your program and do steps depending on a specific question or decision that you need to make, and that's called selection, and iteration, which is keep doing certain steps for a certain amount of time. So that was selection, sequence, and iteration.